don't want us to talk about that? Yeah, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Awesemo.com NBA strategy show presented by No House Advantage. I'm Dave Loughran, joined by Adam Scherer, Ship My Money DFS. Follow me at Laffy_D, LOUGHY_D for those of you podcast listeners. A 2-game slate to break down, same games as Monday. We're going to see a lot of this. But anyway, before we get into any of that, how about John Morant last night? I know you didn't catch all that game, but still, the fact that, remember I said earlier in the year that they can't win unless they have like a legit superstar in this roster?
Yeah,
he's beginning to look like what's that?
I said, yeah, he appears to be stepping up.
He looks like he's become, and let's be fair, as good as Ja was in the regular season, what we've seen him do in some of these postseason games is far beyond what he was consistently doing before the playoffs started.
Well, you've just seen like the adjustments, and like we've talked about it from a DFS standpoint as well. You know, he finds a way to get it done, whether it's him scoring, whether it's facilitating. You know, just he's been great.
He's awesome, man. You said before the show started to me that the Grizzlies should hope that Dillon Brooks gets suspended for a game. Now he only played like 2 minutes in that game. Golden State Warriors, they now have Gary Payton with a broken elbow. Dillon Brooks had the flagrant 2. But what is it about Dillon Brooks right now that is a liability to this team when he's playing the way he shouldn't be? I should preface it with that.
I mean, he's a good defender. Like they need him defensively, but he thinks he's like a good offensive player too. And it's like, it just frustrates me that he shoots more than Desmond Bane. Like Desmond Bane's one of the more efficient scorers in the league. He's one of the best 3-point shooters. And granted, even last game, Bane only got up 7 shots, but like this postseason, Brooks' usage rate is 4 points higher than Bane's. Granted, I know I haven't watched a lot of the postseason, but like from what I have seen, like Brooks was taking wide open threes and just missing them. So like it's not like you necessarily want him to turn those down, but at the same time, it can't be good that he's shooting more than Bane like consistently.
Bane is the best 3-point shooter in the league. If you this season at least, if you took everyone that attempted 3 or more threes per game, Desmond Bane had the highest 3-point percentage in all of the NBA. So, right. Yeah, I'm with you there.
Anton Murphy said you need guys like Brooks on your team minus that foul last night. Yeah, you need guys that can defend, but you would prefer guys that defend and then don't shoot.
It's not. They can't shoot. But this is the thing, like you're not even saying that Dillon Brooks is neither of us, that Dillon Brooks is a bad player or a liability if he's playing the way he should be playing. The problem is this guy, and once in a while he'll have these decent games where he shoots well, but far too often when you're putting up 3 for 18 lines, shooting from the field, it hurts a team for sure, even if you're good defensively, because he also, gets in foul trouble.
Right. Like imagine if Robert Covington decided he needed a 25% usage rate.
Yeah. And I feel like Robert Covington is actually probably still a good 3-point shooter.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. Anyway, Grizzlies tie that series out. I tweeted this last night. It was late last night that, a lot of people will disagree with this, but the NBA needs more players like Draymond Green, minus the dick kicking, right? Like no one wants to see him, putting his foot up in nut sacks like we've seen him do in previous postseasons. But I, for one, I appreciate the antics. And if Memphis, if they're all in the grind house there, talking shit down on him, raining down booze and everything, I think he should be allowed to flip him the middle finger as he exits early in that game with what seemed to be an early injury.
Yeah, I mean, I tweeted that if baseball is going to if they're going to kill the baseballs, they should at least be embracing middle fingers to fans. It's entertaining. And I loved did you see his post game?
No, I missed it.
Oh, he was like, they were booing. He's like, I got elbowed in the face. Like I'm bleeding from my eye and they're booing me. And to me, if you're going to do that, then I'm going to give you the finger back. He was like, it felt really good to give them the finger. And then they started cheering, I guess, because they assume, or I guess because they knew then I was going to get fined, but I make $25 million a year. So I think I'll be okay.
Look, I mean, is Draymond kind of nuts sometimes? Yeah, but I don't know. I like it. I can appreciate the antics. Now, here's the thing. You don't want everybody like that. But having maybe one of those guys on each team, that would be kind of fun, right? Kind of like not an enforcer from a hockey standpoint, but just one guy that can mix things up a little bit, spice it up. I'm all about it. And if you're at one of those games, the truth is, like Draymond Green, if you're in the attendance, right? Let's say you're at a Wizards game and they're in the postseason and they're playing against a team that has a player like Draymond Green, and he starts flicking off everybody in attendance. You're not offended by that. You're loving it, right? Like wouldn't you be all about that? The fact that now, granted, there's always the risk of idiotic fans doing something and taking it personally, but I think that the players versus the fans type of dynamic, as long as there aren't and idiotic fans, but there's idiotic people everywhere. There's idiotic players. As long as it's not out of control, I think that's a great dynamic that only adds to the game of basketball. So
yeah, I agree. He also, regarding the fine, was like, "I'll just do an appearance and make it back."
Is that what he said?
Yeah.
Yeah, he'll get right. He's not wrong though. He's not wrong. Do a commercial or something, and there you go. It's. What do you think he'll get fined for that?
Like 25.
Right. 25,000 to him, it's probably well worth it.
Yeah. I mean, that, like, but before I even saw his press conference, like I was at the bar and I saw what he did. And I was like, that has to just feel good. And then he just comes out in the press conference. He was like, yeah, it felt good.
And yeah, Jordan Klein, producing the show, just said in chat, damn, Dave Chappelle got attacked on stage last night. Yeah. Did you see what the attacker looked like afterwards? Go to my Twitter.
See any of this.
Have you ever seen any music videos for the band Tool?
Not that I can remember.
It's wild, like crazy claymation stuff or contorted people with the arms backwards. And he looked like he had just filmed a music video for Tool. Like, dude, his arm is literally backward, completely backwards afterwards, taking him out on a gurney, completely backwards.
What, he just got like destroyed by security?
Yeah, as he should have been.
Well, yeah. I just had no idea. Like, I've no idea.
I'm not saying you were opposed to that. I don't know what you think is going to happen if you rush one of the most famous people on earth, Dave Chappelle, while he's on stage. You're going to get the shit kicked out of you. It's just the way it is. And he did. I mean, he's lucky he was still conscious afterwards. Seriously. But he came up, Dave Chappelle, Dave Chappelle made a joke, which was hilarious. And then I don't know, I guess that video was real of Chris Rock coming up and going, was that Will Smith? Like Chris Rock coming up, grabbing the mic at him after the attacker got taken away and goes, was that Will Smith? So it was, it was interesting. It was definitely interesting, but yeah, well, you'll see. I mean, he got tuned up as he should have. Ready to talk some basketball?
Yeah. I was trying to find the clip.
Yeah, and apparently Chappelle got some shots in too. Good for him.
Right? I'm
serious, man. You come up while someone's working. And I don't care if you're pulling this nonsense like, oh, he's an offensive comedian. He's a comedian. Like, don't go.
I mean, if he offends you, why are you there?
Don't go. Don't listen. All right. Comedy's meant to push boundaries. If you don't like it, you do. Nobody's forcing you to listen. Right. All right. Anyway, let's talk about a little basketball here. We got Philly, Miami, Dallas, Phoenix. So, hit that thumbs up too. We're you got 217 people watching out of the gate, 45, but let's get to, at least 65, 70 here. I think that's very doable. Appreciate you guys in advance. It does help us a lot. Subscribe to the channel. We're at 76,300 plus. all of that good stuff. If you like this, you want to help support us, it's the easiest way to do so. And hit join down below if you want to get those free super chats each month, the custom emojis, the sweet badges as you see in chat that get cooler. They just look nicer every month or every couple of months till you get that year. There's a 2-year too. We're not there yet, but we'll always prioritize your questions and comments along with our premium Discord members as well. All right. So first, and Aaron said Chappelle's washed up. His last special wasn't very good. No, but to say he's washed up because he had one semi-week special, Dave Chappelle's still one of the greatest to ever do it. And I don't think it's even debatable. What?
I said he's no Anthony Jeselnik.
No, he's just markedly better than Anthony Jeselnik. So last game, Doc Rivers or Glenn Rivers, as our boy Greg Ehrenberg petitioned to stop calling him Doc. I agree. And people in chat were saying that yesterday as well. You're right. He started DeAndre Jordan, who was -9 with 2 fouls in the first 4 minutes. They call a timeout and they claw back. They actually win the first half 51-50. So then you're like, okay, there's no way Doc's starting DeAndre Jordan in the second half. Not only does he start DeAndre Jordan in the second half, but he plays him for 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 minutes in the third quarter, and then puts him back out there 3 minutes into the fourth. When he finally came off, they were down by 19. And dude, he was -22 in 17 minutes.
Yeah, not great. From a fantasy standpoint, the issue is that Jordan's not a terrible point per minute guy. So if Rivers is going to insist on playing him, you can't just write him off. He's at 0.97 DraftKings points per minute with the Sixers this year. So if he's going to play 18 to 20 minutes, he looks decent at 3,900 on a 2-game slate. But the issue is it should be Paul Reed. And if Paul Reed can avoid foul trouble at 4,600, I think, is still probably the higher upside option, just because it's difficult to see how DeAndre Jordan gets 24 minutes. I mean, unless Rivers just decides, I care way more about messing with reporters than I do winning this game, and I'm just going to run DeAndre Jordan out there as many minutes as I can. It's almost impossible to think about how DeAndre Jordan plays his way into more minutes. Whereas if Paul Reed can avoid the fouls, he should be out there a lot more.
I would think so. And honestly, I don't think Jordan even gets to 17 minutes today.
I agree. It feels like he gets one more start and then Reed starts the second half.
That's what that's the thing. Unless Doc Rivers is so opposed to taking responsibility or accountability for anything, that he goes, you know what? I'm playing Jordan 35 minutes tonight.
Right.
We're just doing this. Who cares? We're not winning without Embiid anyway. I don't know, but just how brazen he was in that post-game press conference, just to be like, no, you guys don't know what you're talking about, and I'll continue doing it, and we don't care what anyone thinks. It's like, okay, I actually understand the coach's mentality of, I'm not going to let the media and the fans, shape my decision-making after a game. I get that. But the problem with something like DeAndre Jordan is they're significantly worse with him on the floor. They actually went small midway through the second quarter and clawed back from a double-digit deficit and were up at the end of the half. And then he starts Jordan and plays him huge minutes. That's what I don't understand, right? Like if you look at what was working, you had Yang out there, who I thought that was crazy to put him at the 5, but it worked. He was plus George Niang was +6 on the day. One of the only players on the Sixers that actually wasn't in the negatives by a mile. You had Danny Green, Harden, Harris, and Maxey out there. It worked. And then he never went back to that rotation.
Yeah. And the other thing, when you look at Miami's rotation, Dwayne Dedmon only played 4 minutes. So when Bam wasn't on the floor for the most part, they're playing small, which should make it even easier to not give DeAndre Jordan minutes.
Listen to this rotation that he played for the final 3 minutes of the third quarter. You're going to love this. Harden, Danny Green, Shake Milton, George Niang, and DeAndre Jordan in the playoffs.
Right. So here's a question. Here's a question, just because it's Rivers. Since he explicitly said that DeAndre Jordan is starting this game, what are the chances DeAndre Jordan is starting this game?
I was writing out my notes for the betting video today that I'm going to put out this afternoon. And I had said that even though he said he's going to, I'm paraphrasing, I don't remember exactly what I said, but even though he says he's going to play him, I'm not, because I want to bet the first quarter money line or first quarter spread again for the Heat. It's at 3. It was at 2.5 last game. I'll go right back to it. I was like, I'm not going to hit this until I get confirmation that he's actually starting DeAndre Jordan.
Right. It would be the most Rivers thing ever to just be like, I don't care what you say, he's starting. And then just 30 minutes before the game, the lineup comes out with Paul Reed.
And then he doesn't play a minute.
Right.
Yeah. Another thing too is with Paul, someone had mentioned on Twitter to me, they're like, maybe it's because they're worried. We talked about this. Maybe they're worried Paul Reed's going to get in foul trouble. Yeah, but who cares? Like, right. Who cares?
DeAndre and if he does, Jordan, just go to that small lineup even more. It's
exactly
you're not going to win regardless. But DeAndre Jordan sure as hell is not the way that you accidentally win a game.
Right, 100%.
When you're the worst team, you should be increasing variance, increasing 3-pointers, giving yourself a chance, playing faster, not going to DeAndre Jordan.
Yes, exactly. Like DeAndre Jordan legitimately just sits under the rim and waits for lobs. That's what he does, and he can't rotate on defense. He's a complete, he can't do anything defensively. So I'll take the Bam overs again. I'll take the Heat first quarter spread. I'll take the Heat spread for that matter, but I would prefer first quarter because I think you'd agree. It's definitely possible that Jordan plays 6 minutes in the first quarter and never comes back.
Yep.
So what do we want to do for Philly? With James Harden, this is an awful matchup for him. They Heat don't allow guys to score in the paint. They're good at defending the threes. They play slow, and they don't really foul. Like second fewest free throw attempts to opponents all season long. It's a tough matchup for Harden, but there's still no Joel Embiid. So how do we come to terms with that?
Yeah, it's tough because the matchup's really difficult. But on the other hand, there's no Embiid. But then on the other hand, again, James Harden is washed. So I don't really know. I mean, 9,600, there's certainly a massive ceiling for him. But even last game, which was the first game he's played without Embiid since joining the Sixers, Harden had a 26.9% usage rate. Harris was higher at 30.4%. Maxey was about the same at 26.5%. So it just seems... I think Miami, they're not going to take away Harden, but they can really make life difficult for him and make other guys beat them. So I think there's a high ceiling at 9,600, but to me, it's not the same situation as it would have been, a year ago or whatever in Brooklyn. Agreed. When Durant and Irving were out, and you're just like, there were times not long ago where regardless of matchup or anything else, you were just playing 100% James Harden at 9,600 because, when his co-stars were out. To me, that's not the case here. He looks good at 9,600. He's fine, but the matchup's difficult. He's not playing well. I think he's good, but not great here.
I'm with you. I took a lot of heat on the betting video from Monday because I went under 42.5 points, rebounds, and assists. And people are like, you can't use Trae Young as a comparison to Harden. They're like, Harden's stronger and gets to the rim. Because I had said that Miami in the regular season, phenomenal against these type of players. But look at Trae Young, and they held him to 3 points in the paint per game. Usually he's a 9 points in the paint per game guy in the regular season. 3-pointers, they limited him. They didn't give him anything. And I got some pushback on that. But the biggest difference here, and this is why I continue to have some hesitation about Harden. Harden's not that same explosive guy that can bully his way to the basket and split, two redwood trees below the basket. Like he doesn't do that anymore. He's not getting the fouls anymore. He's kind of just, if you watch these games in a lot of them, he drives to the rim, and once he gets into traffic, kind of just tosses the ball up and hopes that he either gets fouled or it goes in. There's no real calculation to it anymore. And if he doesn't have that part of his game in the arsenal anymore, he's going to really struggle against Miami, man.
Yeah. And the other thing too is not only did, using the Trae Young example from the first series, not only did he struggle, his usage was down. And,
right.
That's it. I expect the same kind of thing here where if Miami loses a game, they want it to be Tobias Harris goes nuts. Tyrese Maxey goes nuts. Danny Green plays like it's 10 years ago. They don't want to lose a game because James Harden goes out there and drops 50 on them. And I think you saw the same thing with Atlanta. You saw some really big Bogdanovich games, but it was, it's not just that Trae Young was inefficient because Miami's good defensively. He also just didn't get the same opportunities because they were like, yeah, we're not doing this. It's going to be somebody else that beats us.
AOD says trading Drummond was so dumb. No, it wasn't at all.
No, that had no impact on anything.
Here's why it doesn't matter at all. If you think a healthy Embiid isn't playing 38 to 40 minutes in every postseason game, then fine. But even so, it doesn't matter. Like, Paul Reed's not a downgrade from Andre Drummond as a backup playing 8 to 10 minutes a night in the postseason. When you lose, a potential MVP player, it doesn't matter who's backing him up. It just so happens in the case of the 76ers that they have DeAndre Jordan as somebody. But if you lose Embiid, it doesn't really matter anyway, is the thing. It doesn't matter anyway.
And Drummond is not good either.
No, but what I'm saying is, would I rather have Drummond over DeAndre Jordan? Yes, but it doesn't matter because if you're losing 38 minutes from Joel Embiid, the leading scorer in basketball this season, it doesn't matter who your backup is.
Right.
Yeah, it's plus, yeah, Drummond really struggled against Boston too.
Plus, I mean, they got James Harden in that trade. Like, right. I would still rather have James Harden than Andre Drummond.
Yeah. And it's not like Seth Curry went nuts.
Right. Yeah. He had the one game, maybe two.
Yeah. He had one game where he played, I think, 35 minutes and he didn't score a single point.
Yeah. I had a good night that night.
Yeah. And someone said they were going to go back to the Harden under again today. You can, but it went from 42.5, which was a great under number, to 40.5. So I suppose there's some meat on the bone, but that's a little bit more difficult for me to get behind. Do you want to go back to Toby here? Because he was great last game and you just talked about his usage rate.
I think him and Maxey both look okay. They're reasonably priced. They're going to play a lot of minutes. You could certainly see some increased usage as well if Miami does what they can to get the ball out of Harden's hands. I don't necessarily think that they're great values. It's still a difficult matchup. It's still a slow-paced team. There's going to be plenty of other good options, I think, in this price range as well. But I do think Harris and Maxey both look fine. And
by great, I meant he was great as a scorer. You and I just had a long conversation about this. George Niang might be a great value at 13% ownership right now. Obviously volatile, and you don't know what you're going to get from him. And he was terrible last game. He shot 0 for 7, but all of those were 3-point attempts. He is a 41% 3-point shooter on the season. If Doc goes small and does it for more than just the few minutes that he did last game where it actually worked, and Niang plays 24 minutes and gets up another 7-8 3-point attempts, he could be a perfectly reasonable value despite the tough matchup.
Who was that?
George Niang. I'm saying if Doc decides to go small again, he shot 0 for 7 last game. All of them were 3-point attempts, though.
Right. He's extremely risky, but he's the kind of guy at 3,700 that, if he gets hot and if things break right for his minutes, like if DeAndre Jordan only plays 8 minutes and then Reed gets in foul trouble or something and the Sixers just play small, like there's a path to Niang having a very good game. I don't think it's the most likely outcome because you need him to get those extra minutes and then you also need him to play well, which is kind of asking for two separate things. But there's definitely at least some sort of path there.
Yeah, 41% 3-point shooter. Not a great per minute guy, but if he gets hot from beyond the arc, you might just keep him out there, especially if.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I forgot they even had Millsap. Why is Jordan playing ahead of Millsap?
I don't know. None of it makes sense at all. None of it makes sense. Millsap played 6 minutes last game. 6 minutes. None of it doesn't add up, but whatever. Paul Reed only played 13 minutes, but as you and I talked about at length, actually, no, that was Josh and me, but you and I have talked about this a lot. He's such a good per minute guy. Like, he had 4 points, 9 rebounds, 4 assists, a block, and a steal in 13 minutes. He's just a massive energy guy. And the foul trouble probably will be an issue again. There's very little reason to believe it won't be. But what do you want to do with Paul Reed?
I think he's risky. 4,600 is relatively expensive for somebody that you kind of can't guarantee is playing more than like 16 minutes. But at the same time, he is a really good point per minute guy, and he should play more than 16 minutes if he's able to not foul out in that period of time. So, I mean, I think he is risky, but at the same time, it's a spot where we very easily, when we talk about the next Philadelphia game, we could very easily be saying Paul Reed's the best, clearest value on the slate because we saw what happened, in this game, and he plays a ton. So, like, in tournaments, even though he is risky and the price tag is up a bit, I still think that there's a massive ceiling there, and I think there is merit to trying to get there first before Rivers makes it clear that he's smart enough to do it.
Anybody else for Philly?
Not really.
Let's talk about Miami. We got free content today too. As always, it's Wednesday. We got player rankings for NBA free. MLB ownership rankings are free. PGA top golfers are free. NHL player projections are free. All of that good stuff, 100% free. But, and I said this last night, when we do promos that are like legit bangers, I will always let you know about it. Sometimes you might gloss over one, but this one is huge. We haven't done this since we only do it special occasions, like once a year usually, but we're running it back a little early, and it's amazing. Use the promo code Luka, or just go to awesemo.com/promos. It's way easier. You can just click it instead of having to type it in. 7 days, so the full week for $7. That's a 77% discount. 77% discount. Just so happens to be Luka's number as well, which is kind of neat. You get every tool on the site: baseball, basketball, football, hockey, golf, MMA, NASCAR, esports. If they have contests out there, we have content for it. All of our tools: top stacks, top pitchers, boom bust tool, lineup builder, ownership, player projections, all of our projected stats. You can get the Fantasy Cruncher add-on. We have Formula One and soccer and tennis. I mean, like literally anything out there, we got you covered. $7. It's $1 a day for the entire week. Normally it's what? $29.95, I think. Normally $29.95, $7. We never do promos like this. So it's an exciting one. I'm happy to be able to do this. I actually lobbied for us to do this because I figured, why not? If you want to check it out, here's an incredible opportunity to do so. $7 for 7 days, $1 for every day, gets you every single piece of content, every tool, everything on the site. Just go to awesemo.com/promos or use the promo code Luka, but definitely take advantage. Oh, and join our premium Discord. If you haven't done so, great community, and the premium office hours where you got the pros answering your questions, help you become a better player as well. All right. Bam Adebayo. I have no problem going back to him at 8K again today, dude. He's just, there's nothing they can do to slow him down with the personnel that Philly has right now, Adam.
For Butler?
I was saying how much I like Dwayne Dedman today.
No, I was listening enough to know it wasn't him. I didn't catch you said Butler.
I'm saying they don't have anybody that's active on the roster that can stop Bam Adebayo.
Yeah, agreed. I was actually looking up pick and roll stats for Miami defensively because Miguel McDonald was saying that all Philly needs to do is run the pick and roll with Harden, but I'm pretty sure Miami is really good at defending it, but I didn't get those pulled up in time. But as far as Bam goes,
they're also smothering Harden when he gets the ball before he even gets to half court. It's crazy. Like the moment that ball comes to his hands, he had to get rid of it in a lot of those spots. They were really pressuring him, but go ahead.
Yeah, so I mean, I'm with you on Bam. Like you're talking probably mid-30s in minutes for him, and there's just no answer here. Like either they're going to go small and you're going to get Bam against a small front court, and it's not like he's going to get played off the floor. Like that's a non-issue. Or you're going to get DeAndre Jordan out there and Bam's just going to eat him alive. So 8K, I think Bam looks fantastic.
I do too. I'm going to the over on him, points, rebounds, and assists again today. It was 32.5 on Monday. He hit it in the late third quarter. It's 33.5 today. I'll happily keep hitting that until it adjusts or until Philly makes some type of adjustment, but I'm not sure they can. And over at OddsShopper, you can see the projections and the expected ROI and expected win rate for all of that stuff, and where every best bet is for every book without having to do anything outside of go to oddshopper.com, which is free. How do you want to approach some of these cheaper guys? We'll get to Butler and Tyler Herro, but what about guys like, Vincent and Max Strus and PJ Tucker, all of them in that above 4 sub 5K range?
I think they're all just kind of decent values where you're not going out of your way to get to them. You're not excited about getting there, but it is only a 2-game slate. It's a postseason slate. So there's just going to be limited value. So kind of just mixing and matching those guys in. Like looking at the boom bust tool right now, we actually have Strus with a 37% chance of being optimal, only 30% projected ownership. So he looks like he's a little bit under-owned. Tucker, 26% ownership, 28% chance of being optimal, 25% chance of being optimal, 20% ownership for Vincent. So he looks a little bit under-owned as well. I think that for me, I'll probably just kind of end up rotating through those guys because I think that they're pretty similar in terms of range of outcomes and what their chances of success are. I think it's very difficult to point to one of Strus, Vincent, Tucker, but I think it's also pretty likely that one of them has a good game for their salary.
Abel Ramos with a super chat. He wanted to say, I want to fade all Philly because I hate Glenn Rivers. Yeah, I think a lot of us feel very similarly. And Jamie Diaz says Derek White sucks. Yeah, I mean, what a brutal game that was for him. My God.
Yeah.
Oof. But we weren't wrong about the threes outside of Derek White, who's just an awful 3-point shooter.
Yeah, but did you know that he had shot 6 for 11 in his last 2 games?
Yeah, I forgot about that. Did you say, I mean, seriously, Tatum hit 4, Jaylen Brown hit like 6 or 7. Grant Williams was 6 for 9 from 3. Pritchard went over with 2. These guys, they just drained them last night. Another 43 3-point attempts. Something to keep in mind. How do you want to play Butler and Tyler Herro tonight? And Kyle Lowry's out again for what it's worth. And yes, I agree with whoever said it in chat. It is super annoying that they list everyone as questionable. I'm not even putting them on here anymore. I'm just putting the guys that I think legitimately might not play, and I'm putting Kyle Lowry. But they have 1, 2, 3, 4. They got 5 guys questionable again today.
Yeah, I just completely ignore it at this.
So dumb.
But yeah, I mean, Butler, I think still looks good as well in the postseason so far through those 5 games. 29.4% usage rate, 24% assist percentage, 36 minutes per game. He's only $9K, so $600 less expensive than Harden. Better matchup for him, more valuable positional eligibility as well, since in the next game you have Luka, you have Booker, you have Paul. So I think Butler looks really good. I love Bam. And then beyond them, it's kind of just rotating through guys and hoping to hit the right one. Tyler Herro at 6,800. He certainly has a ceiling. He can have a big game there. You're likely to get north of 30 minutes if this game's competitive, but I think he's also pretty much correctly priced. We talked about Strus, Vincent, and Tucker. Oladipo got to 26 minutes last game, but as long as Butler is in and Bam is in and Herro's in, like, you're still not expecting Oladipo to be a particularly high usage guy, and he certainly doesn't need to get 26 minutes again. He played through garbage time last game, so if you assume that he's not in the closing lineup, you're talking more about like 22 minutes for him. Caleb Martin got to 21 minutes, including garbage time at 3,300. So I think a path to success for him, but again, not anything I'm confident in. It's really Butler and Bam at the top for me. And then I think the Herro, Strus, Vincent, Tucker pieces are like tier 2. And then everything
like
else
rotational guys for,
yeah. Just, obviously Herro's a different salary, but I think relative to salary, he looks about the same to me as those guys do. So it's kind of just, get to them here and there. And then Oladipo and Martin are kind of like in case of emergency.
Yeah. Okay. Dallas and Phoenix, hit that thumbs up too. We got 400 people hanging with us today. We're over 100 likes. Appreciate you guys for that. But as we've said, atone for your sins if you have not done so yet, and hit that like. I told you last night, it was like I DM'd you that I showed Justine, I showed my wife the part of the show where I'm just like straight incoherently rambling about,
how miserable your life is
because I'm asking for likes and how you're like, what are you talking about? She was cracking up, and I had the laptop. I bet she was dying. She goes, yeah, what were you talking about? Good stuff. Dallas and Phoenix. Let's get into this one. The Luka Doncic play, I mean, he's just so good, man. They were down by 21 points and clawed back towards the end of the game. I mean, it was a little too late, but they were down 4 or 5 points as the time dwindled off the clock. He finished with 45, 12, and 8. And what an absolute stud, 44 minutes. It doesn't matter who he's facing. Luka's just going to produce.
Yeah. He's another, like we talked about Curry yesterday where, Curry's scoring dependent. Luka's the opposite. Like he rebounds really well. He gets a ton of assists. And then he also is going to have a usage rate well north of 30%. So he just does everything when he's out there. You can expect him to play 40 minutes or so, give or take, as long as the game's competitive. Played 44 last game. So, certainly could play more. 43.5% usage rate last game. Just ridiculously good. And there's no other real payoff options on this slate either. So that makes it, I think, even easier to get to Luka just because it's not like you have to decide between him and Giannis or something like that.
Yeah, I got to tell you, though, if I'm looking at this and I'm saying, would I rather have James Harden and Dorian Finney-Smith or a Luka Doncic and George Niang or one of these other, if we're talking, large field tournaments, I just want to find ways to get to Luka over James Harden today.
Yeah,
especially with the fact that him and Harden are getting basically the same ownership.
Right, that's what I was going to say. Right now, and again, this isn't to say Harden's a bad play or something, but right now you have Harden with a 36% chance of being optimal at 41% ownership, Luka 45% at 45% ownership, and that accounts for the fact that Luka's more expensive because you're talking about optimal lineups. So even with Luka being more expensive, he's still in the optimal more frequently than Harden, and the ownership is about where it should be. Whereas Harden, it's not wildly overowned, but he is more overowned right now than Luka is. I really want to get to Luka as well.
Yeah. The rest of this team it's pretty standard talking points here. We know Dorian Finney-Smith, Reggie Bullock. Bullock fouled out last game. He would have played a ton of minutes again. All of these guys, even Dinwiddie, they're all similarly priced. I will say though, the one guy I like a lot is Maxey because, and we can get into Maxey Kleber. We can get into the whole DeAndre Ayton thing, but what a wildly different matchup this is going from the Utah Jazz, who have an inept score in terms of actually having offensive skill sets other than putbacks and, easy opportunities around the basket like Rudy Gobert, and then having to face DeAndre Ayton. They really struggled. I was reading something about this and they were detailing what the Suns did against Dallas in game one. And that Jason Kidd had actually warned that this could be the case going from, the Jazz to the Suns where they have a polished, great scoring center. I think you could see this where Dwight Powell has no shot of stopping him anyway. And they're just really struggling with Phoenix. And then you throw Maxey Kleber out there just to get more opportunities as a scorer because Dwight Powell is pretty useless offensively.
Yeah, and they just went fully small down the stretch of that last game. Most of the fourth quarter was with Luka, Brunson, Finney-Smith, Bullock, and Dinwiddie.
Yeah, right. And Maxey Kleber still got 25 minutes and Powell still, and they played a few minutes alongside of each other, not a lot. Powell played 16, and the final 10 minutes of that game, neither of them were on the floor.
Yeah, Kleber subbed out with 10 minutes and 12 seconds to go, and that was it for a big. But yeah, I'm with you. I think that looking at their prices, 4K for Maxey with power forward eligibility as well, I'm going to get there before I get the 3,600 for Powell. You could see more Powell, but I don't necessarily think that's the case. Kleber at 4K, if he's going to get around 24 minutes, that's a pretty reasonable price. He's played 16 games this year with, actually, that was just regular season. He's played 20 total games between the regular season and the postseason with Luka, Brunson, and Dinwiddie all active. He's averaged 0.75 DraftKings points per minute in 23 minutes per game. Not great production there, but at 4K, I think, he's worth taking some shots on. Powell, I think, is riskier just because of the minutes. But at 3,600, he could get there. If he's playing well and you have the pick and roll going and all of that, maybe he plays a little bit more. But I feel a little bit better about going to Kleber than I do Powell.
$7 million man X said, Maxey get to hitting those threes, he pays off easily. Right. That's what it comes down to. If Maxey's knocking down threes, we talked about this with Niang, who I think is still a little bit more volatile than Maxey just from a playing time standpoint. But we've seen it before, right? Maxey was 5 for 8 from 3 against Phoenix last game. He was 4 or 5 against Utah in game 3 and finished with 24 fantasy points on a 2-game slate. You're okay with that. The game prior, he was 8 for 11 from 3. That is, a total outlier. But is he somebody that can come out there and start raining down threes, and you keep him on the floor against a high-powered Phoenix offense that you're going to need? Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, like he's risky in that if he's not playing well, they can just go to a different lineup. He's not the most productive player outside of scoring. Like he rebounds at a decent rate, but Luka's gonna grab so many rebounds as well. Kleber's not getting assists, so you're still talking about somebody that if he's missing his shots, he can pretty easily disappoint. But again, 2-game slate in the postseason, it's pretty tough to find value where you're saying like, oh yeah, there's no way this guy fails. And if you do find that value, everybody's playing them anyway. And then in the case of Derek White, they fail anyway.
How else are you approaching Dallas?
Kind of the same way as I talked about the rest of Miami, where just kind of rotating through these guys. I think that Jalen Brunson at 6,900 is probably my favorite non-Luka option. Just a pretty decent price tag for him. He's around a fantasy point per minute guy. He's still likely to give you 36 minutes or so, assuming that he's able to stay out of foul trouble. He lost some playing time in the second quarter last game, but I think he still looks okay at 6,900. And then, Finney Smith, Dinwiddie, Bullock. I expect Finney Smith to play around 40 minutes. I expect Bullock to play around 40 minutes. Neither one's a great point per minute guy, but they are still relatively inexpensive and don't need to be great point per minute guys if they're going to play 40 minutes. Dinwiddie probably plays around 30. At 5,300, he's fine, I guess. Like he's kind of just in that same category with like Herro and Strus and those guys.
Okay. Mikhail McDonald. So he said, Laffy, do you have the Booker points props tonight? I have him at 50 real points. Adam, I'm sure you got that too, right?
No, because I'm better at this than you.
He said, man, you've got to embrace this. This is good stuff.
He called it a rivalry yesterday. It's like saying the Lions have a rivalry.
Did he call it that or did I? I thought I was just trolling.
No, I think he did at some point.
Oh, okay. That's funny. You could, okay. So if you want to take Devin Booker, you can get Devin Booker over. Where is it? Over. Do we not have an over on the? Why'd they do that? That's stupid. Okay. You can take him over 31.5 at plus 280. What? Okay. I thought we'd have some more on
You said
that.
Over how many?
I was telling Miguel, like that's the most he could bet. Over 31.5 points at plus 280.
That seems like a good bet.
At plus, yeah. It's actually not that bad. Would you bet him at over 49.5?
At plus 280? Well, I mean, no, wait, if he's projected for that, then we're talking even money, right?
Right. Exactly. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So it's
yeah, I'll take the under on the 50.
Solid bet. Let's wrap this one up. Phoenix Suns hanging out on we're hanging out Wednesday morning here. Before we hit the Suns and send you guys on your way, maybe you go and you watch the MLB strategy show after this. That would be a wise decision. Or is it live before lock? Yeah, live before lock at 11:45. So you got the early slate on a Wednesday. Eric Lindquist, Chris Pinnell. You got the No House Advantage strategy show at 1:30 to 2 with Greg and Terry. God, we got a lot. MLB live before lock at 4:30. NBA Deeper Dive at 5:30. NBA live before lock at 6:30. And PGA live before lock, 8 p.m. Hang out with those guys. Ben Rasa, Jason Ruslan. They'll take you home for the night. All right. No House Advantage. You guys already know this. You already know that you get $25. Everybody, any new user gets a $25 deposit bonus when they use the promo code Awesemo, AWESEMO. You already know that you can use No House Advantage projections and the optimal lineup tool at Awesemo, which are free 365 days out of the year to help you get an edge. They've got peer-to-peer player prop platform. That's what it is. You're building lineups. There's no salary. There's none of that, but you're still building lineups, which makes it a very cool format. You can use all the research you already used throughout the day for DFS, apply it to this. Use our tools like Odd Shopper and the free projections and optimal lineup, all of that stuff to compare what's going on over there at No House Advantage. You're just taking the over or the under. There's no juice on either side. The ones you like the most go at the top of the lineup. They get the most points. The ones you are least confident in go at the bottom. They get the fewest points. And you're playing against everyone else, just as you would on DraftKings, FanDuel, or any of those other sites. And the cool part is the part where we'll help you out. These are static props. They don't change throughout the day. So if something happens, or if they're moving elsewhere and you're paying attention to that, there's really good spots that you can snipe and get on top of there over at No House Advantage. Ton of player props to choose from, 100% peer-to-peer to help level the playing field. And every new user gets a $25 deposit bonus when they sign up using the promo code Awesemo, AWESEMO. Go to nohouseadvantage.com or download it in the App Store or the Google Play Store, sponsor of the Strategy Show. All right, Phoenix, let's talk about Devin Booker dropping the big 5-0 tonight.
I mean, with or without 50, he's one of the most mispriced guys on DraftKings at 8,200. Just an insanely cheap price tag for him. Played 38 minutes last game, had a 31% usage rate. In the 4 postseason games he's played this year, 28% usage rate, 22% assist percentage. He looks great here. He's one of my favorite plays on the slate at 8,200. Pretty similar, I think, to Bam at 8K. You don't need anywhere close to 50 actual points for him to just destroy this salary. I don't know really what was the thought process behind this price, but way, way, way too cheap. To me, stands out as the clear top option for Phoenix.
If Devin Booker scores 50 tonight, will you cede the rivalry to Miguel McDonald and admit that he has won and it's over now?
No.
No. All right.
No, because I do think there's a relatively
Dude, I'm joking.
I know.
It's the same person that was telling Josh and me the other day that Milwaukee's going to smash Boston this series. And after they did win in game 1, he's going, I told you so. Where's Josh? So I can talk shit. And then Boston came back and beat the piss out of them yesterday. That game was never even competitive. So yeah.
Carlos Manzo asked how I only burned my nose. Now my forehead is cooked.
Let me see the head. Is it getting better? The nose doesn't look nearly as bad. Oh yeah, it's starting to get there. You're not trying to peel it.
Nah, it is starting to peel on its own though.
Yeah, you got a hat on. Got to let it breathe, baby. Got to let it breathe. Chris Paul last game, 3 assists, very uncharacteristic there. Just peripherals lacking. Played only 29 minutes. Do you want to go to Chris Paul today, or is this now with Booker back a price point where we have so many other on even a 2-game slate, great plays that it's tough to get there? What do you think?
I think it's the latter. I don't have any issue getting to Paul. We do have him projected to be a bit under-owned here, 28% on DraftKings with a 34% chance of being optimal. I like him in the sense of if Chris Paul were to just come out and have a monster game, then it becomes a little bit more likely that Booker is good but not great at much higher ownership. It's just a situation where clearly Booker is the preferred option at $500 less than Chris Paul. So you can, sort of pay up a little bit more to be contrarian and get a lower owned player who's still really good. But that being said, Booker does look quite a bit better. He projects for more points and he's cheaper. So it's mostly, if I get to Paul, it's mostly just going to be because within that given lineup, I want to save some ownership more so than because I actually think he's a better play than Booker.
I got to tell you though, DeAndre Ayton to me is pretty appealing today. I think 7,600 is more than reasonable. Last game, we saw what he was capable of doing. Now, granted, it was on the peripherals, it wasn't great. His rebounding's been fine, but I do definitely think that this is a matchup that's going to be difficult for Dallas. They struggle with DeAndre Ayton. They didn't have to worry about this last series, and I'm not really sure how they're going to slow him down.
Yeah, it's another just front court matchup, kind of like we have in the Miami-Philly game, where I don't think there's any real good answer. The answer for Dallas is most likely going to be just try and outscore, Phoenix with shooters and just give up what you give up to Ayton. So at 7,600, I think he looks very good as well. I do slightly prefer Bam at 8K, and I prefer Booker from this team, like I said, at 8,200, but I do like 8-2, played 33 minutes last game. I think on average, you end up getting 32 to 34 minutes a game from him. Had a 30.5% usage rate, was second on the team to Booker, 25 actual points. I'm with you. I think he just has he has an advantage in this matchup, I think.
Anybody else from this Phoenix team that we get to talk about? This is so unexciting, like Bridges and Crowder and Cameron Johnson, these type of guys.
Yeah, there's not a ton else. I do think Cameron Payne at 3,400 deserves a mention just because he's a good point per minute guy. He played 19 minutes and 15 seconds last game. I don't expect him to play a ton. I mean, you could get even less than that potentially, but he is about a fantasy point per minute. I think 3,400 is just a little bit cheap for him.
I think McGee deserves a mention too. If he gets to 14 minutes, who knows? Maybe he drops 28. He's done it before.
Yeah, McGee certainly in that same category with Payne, where he's just such a ridiculously good point per minute guy, and much better than Payne even. But like if McGee plays 10 to 12 minutes at 3,200, point per dollar wise, he's probably okay. It's not going to be enough for all points that you're going to be happy. But if anything happens for one reason or another, and you get a few extra minutes from McGee, he should just really never be $3,200 because of how good he is point per minute.
Carlos said, "Hey, Laffy, does your wife watch your shows?" No, I mean, she. Why? What's the point? Probably a good thing though. It's definitely a good thing. Jordan Klein producing the show as always. Appreciate you, brother. Shout out to Adam Scherer. Follow him at Ship My Money DFS. Me at Laffy_D. Got a ton of stuff coming up throughout the day. You're going to be on with Alex Baker tonight, breaking down this 2-gamer once again. And we got MLB Live Before Lock coming up shortly, 11:45 Eastern time. See you guys there. Peace.